Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 6 short stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to every major podcasting platform, and you can also follow along on YouTube under the @Karma Stories podcast handle. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from aggravating.5217. Email above anything else. I'm not sure if this story belongs here or in Am I the Butthole. Let's start with a bit of background. I work for a very big company, but due to my specialty, my work is split across the main company and one of the smaller companies. The MD of the main company allows my days to be split in half. The big company is very laid back when it comes to my work. As long as my work is done by the deadline date, they pretty much don't care what I do during the work week. In the smaller company, I report to the C-suite, but the CEO. Let's call the CEO Raw, cause the sun doesn't rise until he gets out of bed. Raw is most interested in what I do during the day. If I didn't know better, I'd say that Raw thinks that I don't work, but sit around playing computer games all day. Raw sends anywhere from 20 to 30 emails to me per day, and more than half will be the same question, just phrased differently. Each email response is usually anything from 2 to 5 typed pages. I have even had emails sent to me at 11 p.m. and at 8:30 the following morning, an email asking why I haven't responded to the previous email. If I am asked the same question multiple times, I ignore the majority of the emails and only answer the question once. When I am working, I need to concentrate, and most days I close my email client so that I'm not disturbed. Last Monday, I'm working quite happily, and I get a WhatsApp from Raw asking me to please read an email and respond post-haste. I stop what I am doing as I get the sinking feeling that something bad is about to happen. As per usual, there are 30 emails from Raw. The first email starts off by stating, "You must always answer emails as quickly as possible, as it is unprofessional and shows disrespect to the writer of the email. Cue Malicious Compliance." I stop what I am doing and start to respond to each email individually, making sure that my answers to the same questions are different. I further indicate that I only work for him half a day and will stop my work at exactly the middle of the workday. I spend the next day and a half responding to emails and not doing my work, even though there is a deadline looming for Raw and his little company. These days, when I walk into the office in the morning, Raw seems to have spent the entire night responding to the emails and in the process, dragging other members of staff into the email trail. And the email is getting so complex that I don't know what's going on. Yesterday, I was expected to have finished Raw's work, and when asked to present the outcome, I simply said that I had not finished. When asked why, my response was that I was so busy responding to emails, I wasn't able to do the work. Raw lost his mind and started to threaten me with being fired. He said that there was a customer that was waiting for the result of my work. He then asks why was emails put above doing my work, and all I did was produce a copy of the email. My boss from the big company was also present, and all she did was laugh. She then told Raw that I will no longer do any work for his company, and he must find somebody else. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called ParticularCar8520. It says, "This is the epitome of F around and find out. You handled that situation amazingly, and your boss seems like a truly good boss to back you up and take you out of the situation." OP responded to this one and said, "Thanks, this boss is the best." I'm assuming here that OP must be on salary and the boss wanted them to work even when they weren't really on their scheduled work hours. Screw that. On the other hand, if they're paid by the hour, here where I live in Ontario, Canada, if you want me to answer emails at night, that goes down on my schedule and you're gonna pay me a minimum of 3 hours. Also, that's overtime if I've already worked that day. This story comes to us from Illuminatus Prime, exposing the drunk. A man was hired as my assistant at a tech-oriented business. He spent his breaks and his lunches getting drunk. I overlooked his behavior and covered for him because he was going through a contentious divorce. Surprisingly, he even accused me of treating him like crap. Then he engaged in a profanity-laden rant where he accused me of a lot of illegal, immoral, and unethical activities before telling me to leave him the hell alone. Yes, I now know that I was enabling his behavior, but I had once gone through a messy divorce of my own, and I was feeling sorry for him. Cue the malicious compliance. I stopped covering for him cold turkey. It was bad enough when no one could find him because he was passed out in his car, but being passed out on the floor of the men's room with his trousers around his ankles on Customer Appreciation Day earned him a dismissal. Of course, he said it was all my fault. It was not. The fallout, because it was discovered that I was capable of doing both my work and the work of my erstwhile assistant, I was allowed to work on my own after that, without any adult supervision of my own. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called WordWizardX. It says, so you covered for him, presumably by doing both your jobs, and you're pleased that the outcome is you get to do both of your jobs? I mean, whatever works for you, but I see no win here. OP responded and said the win was getting rid of a drunken bum who liked to blame me for all of his troubles. The fallout was having to continue with what I was already doing, but with much less supervision. OP, I know you felt some sympathy for this guy, but if he's drinking at work and passing out in his car and passing out in the bathroom, this guy needs to go. This isn't something that's really negotiable. This story comes to us from Brush Melodic. Change the business name? Okay. Sometimes just the threat of malicious compliance is all you need. Years ago, a gentleman owned a chain of auto parts stores. He always named each store name of town, auto parts, and put the initials on the building. One of the stores was in a town that started with a W, inadvertently placing an, at the time, racial slur on the building. I'll let you go down that rabbit hole. After being up there for many years, the city fathers, think City Hall today, came down and told him he needed to take that down because it's offensive. The owner said, it's the initials of the business, how is it offensive? The city said, we don't care, take it down or else. At that point, the owner looks them dead in the eye and says, okay, I'll change the name of the business to Frank's United Chicken Kitchen and put those initials up there. It took the fathers all of a minute to say, never mind, keep it like it is. They left and never had any other issues with them about the sign. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called SarahAngel826. It says, I actually had to look up WAP to see what it means, which apparently means an excited female. Still can't see how that's racist, but I'm old, so I just don't get most of today's slang. Alright, so I did a little bit of Googling on this one myself, and what I have determined is that the description of an excited female fits that very perfectly. But I don't see it as being racist. There's nothing on there that actually leads that way at all. I am definitely not going to define it here though. If you want to figure that one out, you can Google it yourself. This story comes to us from WillowFeather8633. I warned her, Camp Edition. In the late 70s, I went to Girl Scout camp. It was great, but one night they served boiled spinach, and as fate would have it, I'd been playing with pond moss that very afternoon. Add to this, I'd tried spinach once at a friend's house and I threw up. Mom despised spinach, so it hadn't crossed my plate any other time. At dinner that night, our vegetable was boiled spinach. I told the counselors, I can't eat this, I'll throw up. If you don't take at least 3 brownie bites, you can't have dessert. What is dessert? I queried. Ice cream sandwiches, answered the counselors. Damn, game on. Okay, I want that. I'm gonna take a bite and puke. Should I aim for the railing? It was semi-outdoors. The counselors had stopped caring. Sounds good. I took the bite, swallowed it, and promptly puked over the railing. Suddenly, they are all action and rushed me to the one-stall bathroom that was occupied. I puked in the sink until the vile green crap was out of my system. As I wiped my mouth with the paper towel, I said, so do I need to take my other 2 bites? Several counselors asked me shortly thereafter, if you knew you were going to throw up, why did you eat it? I love ice cream sandwiches, I answered. My sweet mother raised hell upon my return from camp that summer, and the forced 3-bite rule went away at Camp Winaka for many, many years. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Retired Night Shift. It says, "My mom cooked pork chops into leather, because if undercooked, we could get worms. You had to have good teeth to eat my mom's pork chops, haha." OP responded to this one and said, "Salmon was such a delightful surprise when I first tried it as an adult. Mom's fish was leather, and McDonald's filet of fish was odd though edible. I didn't have good seafood until I was in college in the early 90s. I'm realizing how ridiculous this is since the Pacific Ocean is 10 miles that way." Another commenter down below called 3Dogs2022 said, "Poor little Moppet. Of course you threw up. Boiled spinach is a terrible way to eat a green. It wasn't until I was an adult that I learned I didn't hate greens and vegetables. I just wasn't fond of someone dumping a tin can into a pot, boiling it for 20 minutes, and then slopping it on my plate." This right here, if the vegetables are not prepared properly, they can be absolutely disgusting. But a properly prepared vegetable is actually amazing. If you don't have a veggie steamer yet, make sure you get one because it makes wonderful veggies. This story comes to us from Competition Extreme 36. Middle manager wants to replace his coworkers with AI? I'll let him throw the first stone. I own a managed service provider MSP firm which provides cloud computing services to clients. Business is good enough to pay my employees a respectable wage while offering them a good work-life balance. I haven't had to lay off a single employee yet. I hired a senior IT technician as a middle manager. Let's call him Harry. Harry seems to have gone off the rails about AI. He has started to micromanage our coworkers to an unacceptable extent, and he has kept on pestering me to investigate how I could use ChatGPT and other AI technologies to reduce employee costs. Frankly, this rubbed me the wrong way. Harry doesn't have a stake in any of his coworkers losing their jobs, and his constant micromanaging had become an issue. More so, I looked at ChatGPT, and there's simply no way it could replace any of my technical employees. ChatGPT has no agency, nor can it deal with clients, nor can it see the computer screen to troubleshoot jack crap. However, ChatGPT could easily replace a middle manager, assuming someone else takes on some additional responsibility daily. You see, ChatGPT has a code interpreter mode which can do calculations and process spreadsheets. This can decimate the workload of a middle manager, at least in our firm, allowing their responsibilities to be absorbed by another senior employee, me in this case. I kept this in mind and have been shadowing Harry's job for the past few months. A good employee retired last week. I approached Harry and told him that I took his suggestion to heart and have decided to automate his role with AI. I told him he could accept his redundancy package or be retrained in Azure. He chose to be retrained in Azure. Unfortunately for Harry, he'll lose the comfy privileges being a middle manager entails. Fortunately for our coworkers, they will have an impartial AI making decisions. Fortunately for me, I won't have to pay for a redundant role. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Mountain Butterfly 38. It says, "Funny how his own suggestion came back to hurt him. I'm sure the employees appreciate it. Great malicious compliance." Another user down below called Larengar said, "Honestly, it didn't even really hurt him. He got moved back into a technical role after finding his level of incompetence. So he still has a job, doing something he's honestly likely better at than being a manager. And the company gets to reduce their headcount by 1 without actually firing anyone. It's win-win all around." Okay, I gotta be honest, I'm not completely sold on this whole AI revolution thing, because AI definitely still gets some things wrong. There was a story a while ago about a bunch of car dealerships that were using AI chatbots on their websites, and people were manipulating the chatbots to say that they could get the cars at hugely discounted prices from what they were actually listed at on the website. And then they look at this and go, well, it's on your website. Is it not truth in advertising if you're telling me I can't get it at that price? Listen, AI's getting better, but it's still got a long way to go. This story comes to us from Ash Skyra. Not until 4:01 Malicious Compliance. I work in a place that has a queue taking incoming calls until 4 p.m. It's generally always busy, always understaffed, but that's the nature of the beast. I work the closing shift, where you generally come in at a later time and stay later. So a few years back, I used to work extra hard trying to get my end of work duties done early between calls in order to leave early right when we shut down. Manager was totally on board with this. Sometimes I'd be done by 4:10, sometimes 4:45. Didn't matter, I left when my work was done and rarely had to stay to my full 5 p.m. Enter the supervisor, person right under manager, and the person who complains about having never enough time to do her job when she spends 60% of said time out of her seat gossiping with other coworkers. Okay, not my circus, not my monkeys. I ignore it and proceed to keep at my habit of working my butt off to get done early. This usually meant multitasking between calls and adding extra stress to work off a sheet for another aspect of our job. This goes well for years until supervisor starts wondering why calls aren't retrieved from voicemail after hours. Never mind that it's my job to get them in the morning following, which I always do. Eventually, I decide, okay, I'll stop working double when the queue is active and save that work for 4:01, since that would make her feel better. No problem. I refuse to do anything but answer calls, cause that's my immediate priority. Fast forward months later, and supervisor is constantly asking people to help on the list between calls. Nope, not until 4:01, ma'am. Meanwhile, the actual manager, the one in charge, is happy as a clam with super high productivity. After all, I am focusing on calls only until 4:01, at which time then I will start my closing duties and not a minute before. OP added an update to this one. It says, okay, first of all, I apologize for the vagueness of the OG post. I've had quite a laugh about some of the comments and am sorry for the confusion. I'll try and clarify where I can, and I have updated and edited because you all had a field day about our work abbreviation of the word Q into QUE. Laugh out loud. I work for a hospital, so I have to be careful how I explain things, and how much for HIPAA. And honestly, just because I don't want to be too identifiable. Secondly, a few of the replies got the basic gist correct. In the hospital call center environment, we take literally hundreds of calls from both patients and offices to schedule things. On top of this, we have been severely understaffed since COVID, and as a result, we have less people taking calls than we should, and more work being assigned to less people to struggle to get it done. We have basically the work of 3 people being assigned to 1 or 2, and that's assuming we even have the staff for it. We don't. So a lot of what's been happening is, instead of working my butt off to get more stuff done during the day, and leaving early as was always permitted by the manager, I'm saving all my closing stuff until the last minute. It still only takes 10 to 20 minutes max anyway, but it means leaving other people to do their job instead of me working my butt off to do theirs for them, just to save 20 minutes on average. Still much less stressful this way, and I'm enjoying it a lot more now. I'd like to give you guys a TLDR on this one because it was a little hard to understand. Let's go. Did work efficiently before anyone said anything. Manager was happy. Answered calls, went through checklist instead of waiting until 4 p.m. when the call shut off. But supervisor wanted voicemail checked at night instead of the next morning, adding to the workload. OP did voicemails instead of checklists between calls, making supervisor having to do the list and answer calls, while OP only answered calls until 4 p.m. I hope that clears things up. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.